There comes a moment in life when silence says more than words ever could. A moment when you look at the person you once loved deeply and something inside you whispers a truth you have been trying to ignore. The connection that once felt alive now feels heavy. The laughter that once filled the room has turned into long pauses and forced conversations. And deep down, you know something has changed. Not every relationship ends with a dramatic goodbye. Sometimes it ends slowly, quietly, through small moments that chip away at love until nothing real is left. The first sign your relationship may already be over is when communication disappears, not the occasional quiet moment, but the kind where conversations feel like obligations, when sharing your thoughts feels pointless because you already know they're not really listening. Love thrives on connection. When two people stop trying to understand each other, the distance between them grows wider every day. Another painful sign is emotional exhaustion. When being with someone feels heavier than being alone, when every discussion turns into tension, every disagreement becomes a battle, and every day feels like emotional survival instead of emotional safety. Love should energize you, not drain the life out of you. Then there is the absence of respect. Respect is the backbone of any healthy relationship. When someone dismisses your feelings, belittles your dreams, or treats your boundaries like inconveniences, it slowly destroys the foundation of love. Without respect, affection becomes meaningless. Pay attention when effort disappears. Relationships are not built on feelings alone. They are built on consistent effort from both people. If you find yourself being the only one trying, the only one fixing, the only one fighting for the relationship while the other person has emotionally checked out, that imbalance will eventually break you. Another quiet but powerful sign is when you no longer feel emotionally safe. When you hesitate to speak your truth because you fear judgment, anger, or indifference. Love should feel like home. If you constantly feel like you're walking on eggshells, something is deeply wrong. One of the most revealing signs is indifference, not anger, not arguments. Indifference. When someone stops caring whether you stay or leave, whether you're happy or hurting. Indifference is often the final stage of a dying relationship. There are also moments when you realize the future you once imagined together has disappeared. You stop making plans. The conversations about dreams, travel, family, and growth slowly vanish. You begin picturing your life alone. And strangely, that thought feels more peaceful. Another sign is constant disappointment. When promises are repeatedly broken, when apologies become routine but change never follows. Over time, trust erodes and hope fades. Sometimes the biggest sign is who you become in the relationship. You feel smaller, less confident, less like yourself. Healthy love helps you grow into a stronger version of yourself. But the wrong relationship slowly erases parts of who you are. And finally, the most powerful sign of all, your intuition keeps warning you. That quiet voice inside that keeps saying, this isn't right anymore. People often ignore that voice because leaving feels terrifying. But staying in something that is already broken slowly destroys your emotional well-being. Being a relationship is never easy. It means letting go of memories, hopes, and the version of the future you once believed in. But sometimes walking away is not giving up. Sometimes it's choosing self-respect over emotional suffering. Because the truth is this, love should not feel like constant pain. Love should not make you feel invisible, deep, and love should never require you to lose yourself just to keep someone else. The hardest realization in life is understanding that some relationships are not meant to last forever. They exist to teach you something about your worth, your boundaries, and the kind of love you truly deserve. And when you finally find the courage to walk away from what's breaking you, you create space for the life that will finally heal you. Sometimes the most powerful act of love is loving yourself enough to leave. When communication begins to disappear in a relationship, it rarely happens all at once. It fades slowly, almost invisibly, like a light dimming in a room you once thought would always stay bright. At first, conversations become shorter. The excitement in your voice when sharing your day slowly meets indifference. The person who once listened with curiosity now responds with silence, distraction, or a simple nod that carries no real interest. And while this change may seem small in the beginning, it quietly signals something much deeper. Communication is not just about talking. It is about feeling heard, understood, and emotionally connected. When two people genuinely care about each other, they naturally want to know what the other person feels, thinks, fears, and dreams about. They ask questions, they listen carefully, they remember the small details. These moments of connection create the emotional bridge that keeps a relationship alive. But when that bridge begins to collapse, everything changes. You start noticing that conversations feel forced rather than natural. Instead of flowing easily, words begin to feel like obligations. Simple questions are answered with short responses. Meaningful discussions are avoided. Problems are ignored rather than solved. The emotional intimacy that once made the relationship feel special slowly disappears. One of the most painful parts about this shift is the loneliness it creates. You may still be physically together, sitting in the same room, sharing the same space, but emotionally you feel miles apart. You begin to realize that the person who once felt like your closest companion no longer feels accessible. It becomes harder to open up because deep down you sense they are no longer truly listening. Over time, this lack of communication creates misunderstandings and emotional distance. Small issues that could have been solved through honest conversations start building into larger frustrations. Feelings remain unspoken, resentment quietly grows, and the silence between two people becomes heavier than any argument could ever be. What makes this situation even more dangerous is that many people try to ignore it. They convince themselves that it's just a phase, that things will somehow return to the way they used to be, but relationships rarely repair themselves without effort. Communication requires intention. It requires both people to care enough to keep showing up emotionally. When only one person continues trying to talk, explain, and reconnect while the other withdraws further into silence, the imbalance becomes exhausting. Eventually, the person who keeps reaching out starts to feel rejected. They begin questioning their own worth, wondering if they are asking for too much when all they really want is to be heard. Healthy love never makes someone feel like their voice does not matter. In strong relationships, communication is the lifeline. That keeps two hearts connected even during difficult moments. It allows partners to grow together, solve problems together, and understand each other on a deeper level. When that lifeline disappears, the relationship slowly begins to suffocate. Because the truth is simple but powerful. When two people stop communicating, they also stop truly knowing each other. And when that happens, the connection that once brought them together starts quietly fading away. Emotional exhaustion in a relationship rarely appears suddenly. It builds slowly over time, often without you even realizing it at first. What once felt exciting, supportive, and comforting gradually begins to feel heavy. The connection that used to give you energy now leaves you drained, mentally tired, and emotionally overwhelmed. Instead of feeling peace when you are with that person, you start feeling tension, pressure, and constant fatigue. At the beginning of most relationships, being around each other feels natural and uplifting. Conversations flow easily, problems feel manageable, and even difficult moments are faced together with understanding. But when a relationship begins to lose its emotional balance, those same moments start feeling different. Discussions turn into arguments. Small disagreements become exhausting conflicts. Instead of solving problems together, both partners may begin defending themselves, blaming each other, or shutting down completely. Over time, this repeated cycle slowly drains emotional energy. You begin to notice that after every conversation or interaction, you feel more tired than before. Your mind constantly replays past arguments, misunderstandings, and unresolved issues. You start thinking about what you should say, what you should avoid saying, and how to prevent the next disagreement. The relationship no longer feels like a place of emotional safety. Instead, it feeds like something you have to manage carefully just to avoid another stressful situation. One of the clearest signs of emotional exhaustion is when you begin to feel relief when the other person is not around. This doesn't mean you immediately stop caring about them, but it shows how deeply the relationship has started affecting your mental state. Moments alone begin to feel peaceful compared to the tension you experience when you're together. Another painful part of emotional exhaustion is the feeling that your efforts are no longer making a difference. You may try to communicate better, be more patient, or find solutions to improve the relationship. But when the same problems continue repeating without change, hope slowly starts fading. Each attempt to fix things feels like pouring energy into something that is no longer growing. This kind of emotional fatigue can also begin affecting other parts of your life. Your focus decreases, your mood becomes more negative, and even your confidence may start to weaken. Instead of feeling supported by your partner, you feel like the relationship itself has become another source of stress. Healthy love should not constantly drain you. While every relationship faces challenges and difficult periods, the overall connection should still provide comfort, encouragement, and emotional strength. A supportive partner helps you feel understood during hard moments, not overwhelmed by them. When emotional exhaustion becomes constant, it often signals that the relationship has lost its balance. One or both partners may no longer have the emotional energy to repair what has been damaged. The connection that once felt meaningful now feels like a responsibility rather than a choice. Over time, this exhaustion quietly changes how you see the relationship. The excitement fades, the emotional warmth weakens, and the idea of continuing the set. Relationship begins to feel more like a burden than a source of happiness. And when love consistently leaves someone feeling drained instead of supported, it becomes a powerful sign that something deeply important within the relationship has already begun to break. Respect is one of the most powerful foundations of any relationship, yet it is often something people only notice once it begins to disappear. In the early stages of love, respect usually comes naturally. Two people admire each other's personalities, appreciate their differences, and treat each other with kindness and consideration. They value each other's opinions, listen without dismissing feelings, and support each other's personal growth. This mutual respect creates a sense of safety and trust that allows the relationship to grow stronger over time. But when respect begins to fade, the entire dynamic of the relationship slowly changes. What once felt like a partnership begins to feel unbalanced and uncomfortable. Small comments that were once playful may start carrying hidden criticism. Jokes may begin to feel like subtle insults. One partner may begin to interrupt, ignore, or dismiss the other's thoughts, as if their feelings no longer matter. Disrespect does not always appear through loud arguments or obvious cruelty. Sometimes it shows itself through quiet patterns that slowly erode the emotional connection between two people. It can appear when someone consistently ignores their partner's boundaries, breaks promises without concern, or treats their partner's time and energy as if it has little value. These behaviors may seem small individually, but over time, they create deep emotional damage. When respect is missing, communication also becomes unhealthy. Instead of listening with the intention to understand, one person may begin listening only to respond or defend themselves. Conversations turn into competitions rather than opportunities to connect. One partner may feel constantly judged, criticized, or belittled, which slowly weakens their confidence and sense of worth within the relationship. Another painful aspect of losing respect is the feeling of invisibility it creates. When someone no longer values your perspective, your emotions start to feel unimportant. You may begin hesitating before expressing yourself, wondering whether your thoughts will be dismissed or ignored. Over time, this hesitation can silence your voice completely. You start keeping your feelings to yourself, not because you don't have anything to say, but because you no longer believe your words will be treated with care. Respect also reveals itself through how partners handle disagreements. In healthy relationships, conflicts are approached with maturity and patience, both people understanding that disagreements are natural and can be resolved through understanding and compromise. But when respect disappears, arguments often become personal attacks. Instead of addressing the problem, one partner may attack the other's character, intelligence, or past mistakes. These moments leave emotional scars that are difficult to heal. One of the most damaging effects of disrespect is how it slowly changes how someone sees themselves. Being repeatedly dismissed, criticized, or undervalued can make a person question their own worth. They may start believing they are asking for too much when all they truly want is basic kindness and understanding. True love cannot survive without respect. Attraction, chemistry, and even deep emotional history cannot replace the importance of feeling valued by the person you share your life with. Respect is what allows two individuals to feel safe being their authentic selves. It creates an environment where both people can grow, express their thoughts freely, and support each other without fear of being diminished. When respect fades, the relationship loses its stability. Without it, love slowly weakens, trust becomes fragile, and the connection that once felt meaningful begins to break down piece by piece. Effort is one of the quiet forces that keeps a relationship alive. In the beginning, effort often feels natural. Two people willingly give their time, attention, and energy because they genuinely care about each other. They plan moments together, check in during the day, listen carefully, and show appreciation in small but meaningful ways. These consistent actions create a sense of mutual commitment that strengthens the emotional bond between them. However, when effort begins to disappear, the balance of the relationships slowly shifts. One partner may continue trying to keep the connection alive, while the other gradually stops investing the same energy. At first, the difference may seem small. Maybe one person stops initiating conversations, as often stops making plans, or becomes less attentive to the other person's emotional needs. But over time, these small changes reveal a deeper problem. Relationships are built through continuous effort from both individuals. Love is not only a feeling, it is something that must be actively maintained through care, patience, and attention. When only one person continues putting in that effort, the relationship becomes one-sided. One partner begins carrying the emotional weight for both people, trying to fix problems, maintain communication, keep the connection from falling apart. This imbalance slowly becomes exhausting. The person who keeps trying may begin to feel like they are constantly chasing the relationship. They send the messages first, they plan the time together, they try to resolve conflicts, and they keep hoping their partner will eventually match the same level of commitment. But when those efforts are not returned, disappointment begins to grow. Over time, this repeated pattern creates a painful realization. The relationship starts feeling less like a partnership and more like a responsibility that only one person is trying to maintain. Instead of feeling supported and valued, they begin feeling overlooked and emotionally alone within the relationship. Another sign of disappearing effort is the loss of small, thoughtful actions that once showed care and appreciation. Simple gestures, remembering important details, offering encouragement during difficult times, or making time despite a busy schedule begin to vanish. These small acts of attention may seem insignificant individually, but they are often the very things that keep emotional intimacy alive. When someone stops making an effort, it can also signal emotional withdrawal. They may still be physically present, but their focus and energy are directed elsewhere. Conversations become brief, plans are easily canceled, and the enthusiasm that once existed in the relationship begins to fade. The connection no longer feels intentional, it feels distant and passive. For the partner who continues trying, this experience can slowly damage their sense of worth. They may begin wondering why their effort is not being matched. They may question whether they are asking for too much when all they truly want is equal care and commitment. Healthy relationships relationships are built on shared responsibility. Both people show up, support each other, and actively contribute to the growth of the relationship. Effort does not need to be perfect, but it must be consistent and mutual. When both partners are invested, even difficult moments can be worked through with patience and understanding. But when effort disappears completely from one side, the connection begins to weaken. Love cannot continue growing high. In an environment where only one person is trying to keep it alive, without shared effort, the emotional bond slowly fades, leaving one partner carrying a relationship that can no longer stand on its own. Intuition is one of the most powerful emotional signals a person has, yet it is also one of the most ignored. Deep inside, people often sense when something in their relationship is no longer healthy or genuine. It may not always come with clear explanations or obvious evidence, but there is a quiet awareness that something has shifted. The connection that once felt natural now feels uncertain, uncomfortable, or emotionally distant. This inner voice does not usually appear suddenly. It develops gradually through repeated experiences, subtle behaviors, and emotional patterns that the mind begins to recognize over time. You may start noticing small moments that leave you feeling uneasy, changes in how your partner speaks to you, how they respond to your feelings, or how distant they have become emotionally. Individually, these moments may seem insignificant, but together they create a deeper feeling that something is wrong. Often, people try to silence this intuition because acknowledging it can be painful. Accepting that a relationship might be ending means confronting the loss of the future you once imagined with that person. It means admitting that the effort, memories, and emotional investment may not lead to the life you hoped for. Because of this fear, many people choose to ignore the warning signs their instincts are trying to show them. Instead of trusting their inner voice, they begin searching for excuses to explain away their doubts. They tell themselves that stress, work, or temporary problems are causing the distance. They convince themselves that things will eventually return to how they once were. While hope can be powerful, ignoring intuition for too long often prolongs emotional pain rather than solving the underlying problem. One reason intuition is so accurate in relationships is because it is shaped by emotional awareness. Even when the mind tries to rationalize certain behaviors, the heart notices patterns that logic sometimes overlooks. It senses inconsistency in someone's actions, recognizes when affection feels forced, and detects when emotional presence has quietly disappeared. When your intuition repeatedly signals that something is wrong, it often means that your emotional needs are no longer being met in the relationship. You may feel unappreciated, unheard, or disconnected even if the relationship still appears normal from the outside. This internal conflict creates a feeling of confusion because part of you wants to believe everything is fine, while another part keeps warning you that something important is missing. Ignoring this inner signal can slowly erode your sense of self. You may begin doubting your own perceptions, questioning whether your feelings are valid, or convincing yourself that you are overthinking the situation. Over time, this self-doubt can weaken your confidence and make it harder to recognize what you truly deserve in a relationship. Trusting your intuition does not mean acting impulsively or making decisions without reflection. Instead, it means acknowledging the emotions and observations that your mind and heart have already gathered. It requires the courage to honestly evaluate whether the relationship still provides the respect, care, and emotional safety that healthy love requires. When someone listens to their intuition, they begin reconnecting with their self-worth. They realize that their feelings matter and that their emotional well-being should not